Hey folks, back in the garage brewery, and I've got a little bit of a conundrum today. I bought this nice expensive Brewing America hydrometer a while back, and you guessed it, I dropped it. But not the hydrometer part. I dropped the glass test tube, and the glass foot at the bottom broke off. The tube itself is fine, and I'm going to fix this. I'll show you how at the end of the video. But right now, it's Big Brew Day! It is May 2nd. That makes it Big Brew Day, but because of everything going on this year, in 2020, this is virtual Big Brew Day. And I'm making a Fullers ESB clone. Same beer I made in the last video, but when the lockdown started and this whole mess began, I ordered some supplies from my local homebrew store, hopcraftsupply.com. And I made sure that I bought enough yeast and hops and specialty malts to make a couple, 3, 4 brews during however long this is going to last. So, it's windy outside. I had the specialty malts already in stock for another ESB, so that's what I'm doing. For the recipe, let's go straight to the horse's mouth. Let me share with you a screenshot from a post on Twitter posted by the head brewer at Fullers in London. This shows the actual log page of Fullers ESB, London Pride, Chiswick Bitter, and sometimes they made Golden Pride from the same recipe. 4 beers from one brew day, and they all share the same grist. And that is pale malt, crystal malt, it says light on the logbook, and chocolate malt. Here's how I've made my Fullers ESB. I'm using 95% pale malt, 4% crystal malt 150 Levabond, and 1% black malt. So why am I using 150 Levabond crystal instead of light crystal? Because 150 Levabond ain't light. Well, I'm basing my recipe off of an interview that I heard with John Keeling. John was the head brewer at Fullers for a long, long time. He just retired and stepped down just a couple of years ago. And he gave, in that interview, the exact recipe for ESB and London Pride. And 150 Levabond is what he said to use. And why I'm using black malt instead of chocolate, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. It's brew day. Let's go. All right, it's time to dough in. Let me get my sparge tool out of the way. And if you're wondering about weights, grain weights instead of percentages, on my system, it comes out to 12 pounds of pale malt, 8 ounces of the crystal, and 2 ounces of the black malt. All right, I'm going to let this sit for a little while. Let the temperature even out and check the temp, see where I'm at. A little bit low, looks like 145, 148. But if I'm going to miss, I'd rather miss low than high. I can bring this up and still be good. All right, I'll turn the pump back on, get the recirculation going, and set my mash timer for 60 minutes. All right, the mash is done. I mashed at 150 degrees for 60 minutes. Now I'm resetting the hoses for the fly sparge. Double check here from the HLT through the pump into the mash tun, out of the mash tun through the pump into the boil kettle. Good to go. All right, fly sparge is done. I've got my pre-boil volume in the boil kettle. I turned the Blickman boil coil element on as soon as the wort was over the elements. So I should be reaching a boil pretty soon. And I've got good news and bad news. First, the good news. The good news is I took a pre-boil gravity reading, and on my phone is the recorded gravity, 1042, and on the right is the estimated pre-boil gravity from Beersmith, 1043. So that's a result. The bad news is there's nothing like reaching a boil and going to put in your first edition of hops and realizing you're out of that variety. Supposed to be target hops at 60 minutes. I don't have any. I must have used them all. But I do have Magnum. They're 11.8%. The targets were 11. This is a bittering charge anyway, so I think I should be good. 1 ounce. And start the brew day timer now. Okay, so my timer has gone off. Time for the next step, which is my late addition hops. I've got Challenger, 1/2 ounce. I've got North Down, but I don't have North Down. I've got Northern Brewer. They didn't have North Down. But it's got the word North in it, so it's got to be close, right? 1/2 ounce. And about 1/4 ounce of East Kent Goldings, which I have in abundance. I'm just going to kind of eyeball these. There, that looks good. You know, with all these substitutions, I have gone way past the point of being able to call this a clone, at least not in my comfort level. So, taking the word clone out of the name, this is now a Fullers ESB tribute. All right, here's my counterflow chiller. And I think I've mentioned this before in earlier videos, but I'd like to get your input on this. I know I've got my wort coming in at the top, going down to the bottom, and I've got my cold water coming in at the bottom and coming out at the top. So I've got the correct counterflow between the two. But you see, I've got my thermometer up here. This is where the wort comes in from the boil kettle. Is that where it should be? Is that a good place for it? Or should I put my thermometer at the bottom and measure the temperature of the wort as it's already gone through the chiller? Put a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Alrighty, this is the last of it. Just under 6 gallons, which is about what I expected. Here is my yeast starter. Not looking too bad, is it? There we go, that's in frame. Considering that I just started this less than 7 hours ago. What I did is I saved some of the yeast from my last ESB, which was just a couple of weeks ago. All right, my battery conked out on me. So, pitch the yeast. Got a blow-off tube all hooked up. And I'm just going to button this up. Here's my thermometer. Big Brew Day 2020 is in the books. I bought this nice Brewing America hydrometer. It's not cheap, and you guessed it, I dropped it. I dropped the glass test tube, and the glass foot at the bottom broke off. And I'm going to fix this. Now the plan is pretty simple. I took some 1/8" thick Luan, cut them into 2.5" squares, and in one piece I've drilled a hole through which the test tube will fit, and I'm going to hot glue everything together, and this will be the new base. Got my pieces of Luan, and they will fit like that, all right? Except I want to do it this way around. Okay. Probably a little overzealous on one end there, but there we go. There we go. I can maybe sand the edges, paint this up a little bit, whatever, leave it the way it is, who cares. I got my test tube back.